Okay, in today's video, I'm going to talk you through how to work and set up a basic rendering for your kitchen design project or any project that you're looking to render. So to do this, what you see on my screen currently is a kitchen rendering that was done with artificial light only of the kitchen, and this was done in Revit itself. There's two ways I'm going to show you how to do renderings today. One is in Revit itself, and then the other is going to be in the cloud. This is using the Adesk cloud for rendering and computing. You can obviously see a big difference between the rendering on your screen currently and the rendering that is here in Revit as far as lighting and quality, big difference. So let's talk about how to do this and how to set this up. So setting up a custom rendering, what I always like to do is go back to my level 1. And in my level 1, I'm looking at the project and I need to set a camera. So I go to my view tab at the top of the screen, I go to my 3D views, and I want to set up a camera view. So I select the camera button, and then my camera is chasing my cursor, and then I want to set up the view that I'm going to use to look at things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just then click and hold down my left mouse and pull. This is how far I'm going to be actually seeing. This is my depth of view. So then I'm going to go ahead, let go of the mouse, and click, and now I can then see the view that is being created. Now I want to then go ahead and use my orbit tool, or should say my navigation wheel here, and look using the look tool, and if using the arrow keys to move backwards or forwards, and then my look tool to turn my head different directions, I can now see and sort of set up the view that I want to render. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set it up this just a little different view. I'm going to make sure that I can see those can lights in the ceiling, and then I know I have some under cabinet lighting in here also we're going to be able to take a look at. So with the view set up the way it is, what I can do is if I want to get in and just take a quick look at the shaded view just so I can see what's going to happen here. That looks great. Now I want to go and I want to set up the actual render details. So to set up the render details, we come here, same view tab at the top of the screen. Here it says render, render in cloud, and render gallery. We'll talk about these cloud and gallery in a second. First one is the render details. The little teapot is the symbol for rendering. Select that render button, and then we're going to talk about this dialog box. So the render button at the top, that starts the whole process. All right, we come down through here, we're talking about quality and the settings. The one that I did that you saw was on draft. What happens here is the quality does improve, but also the time it takes to do the rendering. So for your first few that you run, just run it in draft mode to make sure things are looking right, materials are functioning, and that. As we come down through here, I generally do not adjust or change much of this width and pixels. That has to do with the screen size, the camera view. What I do is I come down here and I look at this, the lighting scheme, because lighting and the way lighting reflects off of surfaces is probably one of the biggest issues. So here it says exterior sun only. When you select this, you have different options. So you have sun only, sun artificial, artificial only. Artificial lighting is just lights, can lights, under cabinet lights. If you have other lights in your house, that's what's turned on then. And that's dealing with it from an exterior point of view. Here, since we're on the interior of the home, we're going to be looking at the interior. So that's interior sun only. That's how the sun is going to be coming through windows and openings in the home. And then both together, and then of course then just artificial only. I generally try to work with just artificial to see what's going to happen on the inside, or then go sun only to see what's going to happen as well. So with interior sun only, I'm just going to hit render quickly, and then you get this dialog. As this pops up, this is your progress bar. You can see it's taking some time to work through that, and then it ran through that so quickly because that sun is blasting through this home. This is that rendering. Now, the rendering is the way it's set up, the way it is. Let's go back and do an artificial only, and then hit render. And it's just redoing the whole rendering right now. Now it's calculating all the different lighting schemes that are happening here, how lights are bouncing around, and you can see what's going on. Now, why does it look so dark over here, and then why was it so light in our last rendering? Well, that's because I don't have walls on the other side of this view. So that's going to make a big difference, whether your building is closed in or not. This is simply just a design to have a floor. There's no other walls. That's why this thing's wide open. So sunlight was just blowing in through here. That's why this was built up and as bright as it was. So getting back into this, you can see how that lighting scheme has a big issue on how this thing is going to be seen when it starts to rendering. So set this view back up, and you could see that when I set this up, with a render scheme, draft mode, interior artificial only, hit the render button. This runs through actually relatively quickly on draft mode, and you get a good idea of what things are going to look like in your rendering. Now, if you're looking to then save this rendering, because you don't want to lose it, because you want to use it, say, a walkthrough or later on, what you do is you hit this button here, Save to Project. What that's going to do is save this rendering to your project in the browser. So we'll just go ahead and call this, this is View 7, and we'll say Night with Lights. That's really what's going on here, all right? And now it's saved. I'm just going to close the rendering dialog box, and now I can come down here to my renderings in my browser, and I can see that this was that first view that we shot, and this is artificial only, and this was done in Revit, and this is same artificial only, but I called it Night with Lights, and you can see how that is working out in Revit. Now, another way that you can render, and sometimes this works better if you're going to do a higher quality rendering, it's going to take a whole lot more time than just draft mode, and that's starting to work with Render in Cloud. So the way that works is very similar to setting up a rendering, and it functions off the same rendering settings. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to jump into this number 7 again. But what you always have to be aware of is once you send it to the cloud, though, the name is going to keep as what is set here too. So what we're going to do here is we're going to jump into Render in Cloud. And what's going to happen is I'm already signed into my Autodesk account. So what I'm going to do is instead of punching through here, I want to get out of my Autodesk account. I'm going to sign out of it. All right, so I'm out. So if you're out of an Autodesk account, you hit Render in Cloud, it's going to give you this dialog box. It's going to say sign in. If you do not have an Autodesk account, and as students, some of you have made some have not, you would need to create an account. So make an account and you're ready to go. I'm going to log into my account right now. Next, and that's going to ask me for my password. And now I'm in. Now it's letting me set up a render. So what I'm going to do is just keep this step 1, step 2, step 3. Very simple process. Hit continue. And now I come into this. So the view is View 7. That's the same view that you see in your browser. I'm doing a still image, render quality standard, image size, exposures advanced. This is important. It should say 0 credits. Because you're a student, you should have unlimited access to simple render. Okay? So we'll go ahead and hit render. And then this is working in the background. We don't need to wait for it to do anything. It's going to do its thing in the background. So I could actually then come back in here, hit Render in Cloud, hit Continue, and I can send another rendering. Now, if I want to render the same view again, what we would do is we need to change the name, or it's going to overwrite the 3D View 7 that we just sent. So what I want to do is just come over here, right-click on 3D View 7, come up here to Duplicate View, and hit Duplicate. Not duplicate with detail, just duplicate. So I have 3D View 7 copy. So now with this, copy 1 says that we now know it's a different view. If I wanted to come in, and since this is 3D View copy 1, and set one of these renderings up with artificial light, and set one up that's different, you can do that, okay? The other thing you can also do is keep them both with the same settings, and then we can set up in Render in Cloud, where we're going to be able to go ahead, and instead of doing a still image, we're going to then set up for 3D View 7, copy 1, still image, we're going to do a panorama. This means we can actually turn our head inside of our rendering. So the rest we're going to keep simple, hit render, and let this thing go in the background. So hit continue in the background, wheel spinning, it's working for me. And then we'll take a look at that rendering when it's finished up in the gallery. So we'll go ahead and hit the gallery button, and it should take us into our gallery. And we should be able to see if it's making progress or what's happening. Okay, so as this thing's spinning away, sometimes these panoramas take a while to make. What I'm going to do is jump back into the gallery over here and let you know that gallery has a ton of other tools in it. I'm not going to go through a whole lot, but if you do end up investigating this gallery, there's some neat things you can do. If you have a rendering that's here, you can actually then re-render this as a panorama. You can also change this to a stereo panorama, solar studies. There's a ton of different things you can do from the gallery. That's going to probably be a totally separate tutorial if we got into more advanced settings with solar lighting and the things like that. But what I'd say is try it, play with it, and see what it comes up with for you. And hopefully we'll get that panorama to pop up here shortly. Okay, while this is continuing to scroll, this thing is still building a panorama. I'm jumping back here into the gallery, and we're going to talk about how to download these from the gallery. So you make sure you select, put a checkbox in whatever view you want to download, and then hit this download button. Pretty simple. It'll pop up and start your download down here at the bottom of the screen, and then this is going to be a zip file because it's a fairly large file. Then you can just go ahead and open this up in your downloads and save it to wherever you need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to then say, let's see, open, let's show this in the folder first. So there's my kitchen drawings folder. Right click on a zipped file and you can hit extract all, and then this will ask, where do you want this to go? Well, I'm going to tell this thing that I just want this to go to my desktop. No big important place where on the desktop, and drop it there, and then hit extract, and it's going to go ahead and open that up for me. So now I can go in here and take a look and find that kitchen drawing, which is right here, kitchen drawing example. We can go ahead and open that up, and now it's just like a simple PNG file. So when we need to take this into Movie Maker, we can easily upload this into Movie Maker, or email this to a client or anyone that you needed to communicate information with. So hopefully, not sure whether, well, rendering cloud, looks like we have an error with our panorama. I'll try setting that up and sending it again, and tack it into another video on that panorama. But that gives you the basics on how to set up a still rendering in the cloud and also in Revit. Both of these are able to be done for that kitchen assignment, and also you can also download the renderings from. To do that, what you would do is select what you want to download so you know the name. So this is a 3D View 7 Night with Lights. Come over here to File, come down to the word Export, slide over, and slide down to Images and Animations. Go ahead and hit that arrow, come over here to Image, and select that image from this. Well, right now this is saying current window, so it'll use that current window, what is up right now. But if you wanted to also do this, you could come in here and select Views and Sheets. If you wanted to send a bunch out at the same time, you can hit Select. Since we're not doing sheets, we can uncheck those, and then you can come in here and find what you want. So here's a rendering. We don't want, say, that 3D view. We want a rendered 3D view night with lights. We'll select that, hit OK. We don't need to save it. And then this is all set up and ready for us to send out. So we just hit OK. That downloads very quickly. And then I can go back into my file and see exactly where that was placed. So I can come into here and find that there it is. This is my kitchen render. Go in and take a look at that, and you can see that image. Now, this is sitting on the computer outside of Revit, and again, that can be utilized as well for uploads into Movie Maker. So hopefully this helps get you rendering and get you downloads for your kitchen project.